After nearly 4 decades of a career marked by intense characters, unforgettable performances, and behind-the-scenes moments few have ever dared to reveal, John C. Reilly has decided to break his silence and expose details that had, until now, been kept secret about his most iconic films. At 39 years into his career, the actor, known for his versatile talent and ability to move seamlessly between profound dramas and cult comedies, surprises everyone by revealing truths that could completely change the way you see some of Hollywood's most celebrated productions. There are stories involving tense backstage situations, creative decisions that almost changed the course of major franchises, disagreements with renowned directors, and even moments when he nearly walked away from roles that today are considered legendary. These revelations don't just uncover the more human and raw side of the film industry, they also call into question the flawless image of some productions adored by audiences worldwide. So get ready to hear about hidden controversies, contracts that were never made public, internal studio pressures, and circumstances that could have erased scenes now considered true cinematic classics. Before diving into these revelations, if you love cinema, behind-the-scenes stories, and insights that go far beyond what happens on screen, make sure to subscribe to the channel and leave a like, because this is essential for YouTube to recognize the value of our content and deliver it to more people who share this passion. Your subscription is what allows us to keep bringing exclusive videos, in-depth research, and information that rarely appears in mainstream media. And if you'd like to support us even more, you can use Super Thanks to contribute financially and help our channel grow. But if that's not possible, no problem. Just drop a comment below telling us which of these revelations surprised you the most. Your opinion makes a huge difference, too. Therefore, stay with me until the end, because the final revelation is absolutely explosive and promises to change everything you thought you knew about the journey of this renowned actor. To begin with, John Christopher Reilly was born on May 24, 1965, in the Marquette Park neighborhood on the south side of Chicago, Illinois, into a large, noisy, and very traditional family. He was the fifth of 6 children, surrounded by a family dynamic that, according to him, profoundly shaped his personality. The Reilly family had Irish and Lithuanian roots and kept a strong sense of community alive, filled with folk music, stories told around the dinner table, and long family meals where everyone talked at once. His father, John Reilly Sr., owned a small transportation company. He was a hard-working, disciplined, and demanding man who believed in the value of effort and responsibility. His mother, Mary Reilly, was a homemaker with a warm but firm personality and a sense of humor that helped keep things light even in difficult times. So his childhood was marked by simplicity, but also by intensity. He grew up in a neighborhood with a strong sense of community, though life there was not always easy. Chicago in the 1970s was a place of social tensions, inequality, and rapid cultural change, which directly affected the everyday life of working-class families. John attended public schools and experienced the roughness of the streets firsthand. In interviews as an adult, he admitted that during his teenage years he got involved in some complicated situations, such as petty theft and trouble, experiences he is not proud of but considers crucial to understanding the different layers of human behavior. As he once said, growing up in a place where you can see the beauty and the harshness of life at the same time teaches you more than any book. From an early age, John displayed a curious and creative personality. As a child, he was an observant boy who preferred listening to the older generation's stories and watching the world around him rather than just playing like everyone else. He loved music, a trait he inherited from his mother, who often sang at home, and he also had a natural gift for mimicking people and creating small performances. His artistic talent didn't emerge through planning, but rather spontaneously. His first performance took place at the age of 8, when he entertained his siblings and cousins by imitating teachers and neighbors, always making them laugh. For years later, he participated in a small school play for the first time, and something inside him lit up, a feeling of belonging, freedom, and energy that he couldn't fully explain at the time. While many of his classmates dreamed of following more traditional paths, he was already imagining something that seemed impossible for a working-class kid, making a living through art. However, in his teenage years, John went through a period of personal transformation. Although he was a naturally rebellious young man, it was in theater that he found a healthy way to channel his emotions and restless energy. He began participating in community theater groups, after-school programs, and student festivals. Performing on stage gave him confidence and revealed that his talent was real. A drama teacher encouraged him to take acting seriously, telling him that he had a natural stage presence and a rare ability to convey genuine emotions. Reilly received those words as if someone had handed him a key to a new world. From then on, he dedicated himself more intensely to theater, rehearsing late into the night, studying characters, and immersing himself in classic scripts. So, his path was not without challenges. The environment in which he grew up did not see theater as a real profession. His father, in particular, held a more traditional view and wanted his son to choose a stable path, perhaps working in a family business or getting a secure job. This led to family conflicts, and John had to fight to prove that his dream wasn't just a teenage whim. Instead of giving up, he found a way to balance his responsibilities with his passion. He worked temporary jobs, helped at home, but never abandoned rehearsals and performances. The turning point came when he was accepted into DePaul University in Chicago, one of the leading theater institutions in the United States. This achievement was the result of effort and talent and represented not only a major step in his career, but also a personal liberation. At DePaul, John was exposed to different theatrical languages, studying everything from Shakespeare to contemporary playwrights, learning voice technique, improvisation, and dramatic analysis. It was also during this period that he developed a more critical view of society, influenced by the artistic environment and intense discussions with fellow students. Alongside theater, John discovered a parallel love for music. What began as a childhood passion grew into something constant in his life. He started playing instruments, joining local bands, and seeing music not as a hobby, but as an extension of the same creative force that drove him on stage. Chicago, with its vibrant cultural and musical scene, provided the perfect environment for this growth. By the time he finished his studies, he was no longer the shy, restless boy from Marquette Park. He was a young artist with a solid foundation, full of energy and dreams, ready to face the world. Yet his childhood and teenage experiences were not just memories. They became a fundamental part of how he viewed the world and portrayed his characters. John C. Reilly has often said that much of what makes his performances feel so authentic comes from what he lived. The harshness of the streets, the intensity of family life, and the transformative power of art as both refuge and identity. These early years were, without a doubt, the invisible foundation of his entire career. John C. Reilly completed his training at DePaul University in Chicago. He was no longer just another young talent dreaming of a place in the artistic world. He had technique, stage experience, and a quiet but firm determination to build a solid career, even if it didn't come with instant fame. He wasn't one of those actors who land a breakout role and explode overnight. His path was built through calculated steps, smart choices, and an unwavering dedication to the craft of acting that by the late 1980s, John decided to move to New York, believing he would have more professional opportunities in theater and, with some luck, make his way into film. It was a period of great effort and uncertainty. Like many aspiring actors, he worked odd jobs, waiting tables, assisting in production, even selling goods to pay the rent and keep attending auditions. It was during this challenging time that his first big opportunity appeared, an audition for the film Casualties of War, 1989, directed by Brian De Palma. Originally, John had been cast in a small, non-speaking role, but his performance impressed De Palma so much that the director decided to expand his part, giving him a more significant and present character. That decision changed everything. Casualties of War was a serious Vietnam War drama that demanded emotional intensity. John delivered such an authentic performance that he impressed not only De Palma, but also his co-stars, including Michael J. Fox and Sean Penn. It was a modest beginning, but one that earned him immediate respect and opened important doors. In the following years, Reilly became a steady presence in prestigious films, often in supporting roles. He wasn't the face on the posters, but he always left a mark in the scenes he was in. And also, 1992, he had a notable role in Hoffa alongside Jack Nicholson, and in 1993, he appeared in What's Eating Gilbert Grape with Johnny Depp and Leonardo DiCaprio. These performances helped solidify his reputation as a versatile actor capable of conveying complex emotions with both naturalness and precision. It didn't take long for more demanding directors to notice his talent. A defining moment in this phase was his collaboration with Paul Thomas Anderson, which would be instrumental in bringing his work to a wider audience. In 1996, John starred in Hard Eight, one of Anderson's first feature films. Although not a major commercial success, it was highly praised by critics and highlighted Reilly as an actor with emotional depth and impeccable timing. 2 years later, he reunited with Anderson for Boogie Nights, 1997, playing Reed Rothschild, an aspiring porn star. The film became a phenomenon, earning multiple Oscar nominations, and John's performance, alongside Mark Wahlberg and Julianne Moore, was widely praised for giving a surprisingly human and endearing touch to a character in such a chaotic and eccentric world. He worked with Anderson again in Magnolia, 1999, another milestone in his career. Playing a lonely police officer, John delivered a sensitive and moving performance that many critics consider one of his best. Magnolia was a complex film with a powerhouse ensemble cast, yet Reilly stood out not through extravagance, but through subtlety, a quality that would become his trademark. Around the same period, he collaborated with Martin Scorsese on Gangs of New York, 2002, further cementing his place among Hollywood's most respected actors. So one curious aspect of John's rise is that even while working on major productions, he maintained a remarkably reserved stance. While many of his peers actively chased stardom, he focused on getting better with every role. He turned down several offers that could have led to instant fame because he didn't believe in the artistic value of those projects. In interviews, he has said he preferred to stay in the shadows and build something solid rather than become a famous but empty face. This attitude made him deeply respected within the industry. Directors and fellow actors began to see him as the kind of professional who elevates any project, no matter the size of the role. In the early 2000s, a new chapter began. Known until then mostly for serious dramas and independent films, John surprised audiences by stepping into the world of comedy. In 2002, he achieved something rare. He appeared in 3 Best Picture Oscar-nominated films in the same year: Gangs of New York, The Hours, and Chicago. His performance in Chicago as the sweet and naive Amos Hart, Roxy Hart's husband, played by Renee Zellweger, earned him an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor. This was the first time his name reached an international audience in a major way, and the public began recognizing him not only as a brilliant supporting actor, but as someone capable of carrying complex stories. The definitive shift toward comedy came shortly afterward when he began starring in films alongside Will Ferrell, such as Talladega Nights, The Ballad of Ricky Bobby, 2006, and most memorably, Step Brothers, 2008. These films revealed a completely different side of John C. Reilly, irreverent and physically comedic. For many, it was a surprise to see him so at ease in roles so different from his intense dramas, but for those familiar with his theater background, it made perfect sense. He had always possessed a natural gift for improvisation and comedic timing. What makes John's rise so remarkable is that, unlike many actors who experience a single, explosive moment, he built his career in layers. He earned respect before fame, becoming an actor first and a star second. The industry came to recognize him as someone who sought meaningful roles, not just applause. This allowed him to move freely between independent and mainstream cinema, between drama and comedy, between supporting and leading roles, always with credibility. His humble demeanor and low-key presence behind the scenes also made him a beloved colleague. Many who have worked with him describe it as a collaborative and pleasant experience because he doesn't carry the typical Hollywood ego. While others chase the spotlight, he pursued excellence. By the end of this first major phase of his journey, John C. Reilly had built something few actors achieve: a solid, respected, diverse career rooted in true artistry. Fame would come later, but respect, so he earned that from the very beginning, when he was just a young actor from Chicago with a dream and an unshakable work ethic. So people think of John C. Reilly, yet many immediately picture his intense, versatile, and memorable characters, but there's a side of the actor that has always been carefully guarded, and in a way, even mysterious: his personal life. Unlike many of his peers who live under the spotlight, John has built a path that runs counter to glamour and exposure. He has always chosen to protect his privacy, keeping his relationships, family, and personal routines away from the headlines. This choice didn't happen by chance. It comes from deep family values, his naturally reserved nature, and a clear understanding of the corrosive effects of fame. From the beginning of his career, he knew he wanted to be recognized for his work, not for his private life. John married Allison Dickey in 1992, a film producer he met early in his career. They met behind the scenes of Casualties of War, 1989, the film that gave John his first prominent role. Allison, who worked on the production team, was not a Hollywood star, which may have been one of the keys to the longevity and strength of their relationship. In an industry where many marriages succumb to its intense pace, they managed to build a solid partnership, free from scandal. The couple kept their relationship largely immune to the spotlight for decades, rarely appearing together on red carpets and almost never giving interviews about personal matters. In such numerous interviews over the years, John has described Allison not just as a wife, but as his life partner and one of his greatest sources of balance. He has openly stated that his marriage was fundamental in helping him stay grounded, even during the most intense moments of his career. While many artists get lost in the whirlwind of vanity and Hollywood pressure, he always had a safe harbor: home, family, and silence away from the cameras. Reilly often says that the greatest privilege in his life is not fame or money, but being able to have dinner with his wife and children without it becoming a spectacle. The couple has 2 children, and again, extreme privacy is a hallmark. John goes to great lengths to keep his children's lives private, safeguarding their identities and daily routines. He has always been clear about this. He doesn't want his children growing up under the weight of a famous last name, nor being treated as celebrities by association. In one interview, he explained that he worries about the psychological effects of early fame and has therefore rigorously protected his family's privacy. "They didn't choose this life, I did, so it's my duty to protect them from it," he once said. Beyond family, Reilly maintains a small, carefully selected circle of friends. Over the years, he has built long-lasting relationships with people he met in theater, independent film, and the music scene, his second great passion. Many friends report that, off-screen, John is extremely down-to-earth, preferring quiet nights at home or intimate musical gatherings over glamorous parties. Despite having worked with big names and being internationally recognized, he does not cultivate the image of a star. He lives discreetly, dresses simply, and avoids social events whenever possible. For him, fame has never been a lifestyle, it is merely a byproduct of well-executed work. So, choosing to live privately does not mean he is reclusive or closed off. On the contrary, those who know John say he has a sharp sense of humor, a contagious laugh, and an incredible ease in discussing a wide range of topics, especially music, literature, and philosophy. However, he simply does not feel the need to turn his life into content for the public. While many actors use social media to promote themselves, he has opted not to have official accounts precisely to preserve his peace and that of his family. Although behind the scenes in Hollywood, this reserved approach has always sparked curiosity and, at times, speculation. There were periods when the press tried to uncover details of his married life, only to encounter a solid wall of silence. John and Allison never felt the need to sell the image of a perfect couple or participate in televised charity events to prove the strength of their relationship. They simply live their life away from the cameras. This discretion is also tied to a deeply personal and emotional side of John. He grew up in a large family where unity was a fundamental value and has always carried the idea that home should be a space of refuge and protection, not exhibition. His marriage to Allison reinforced this concept. She herself is a discreet woman who prefers to work behind the scenes, producing and collaborating on creative projects without needing the spotlight. This alignment of values was crucial to the relationship's endurance against the tests of time and industry pressures. Another interesting aspect of John C. Reilly's personal life is his relationship with music. Few people know, but he is a talented musician and has a true passion for playing and singing. Music has always been part of his home routine. He plays guitar and banjo, sings, and even performs occasionally at folk and bluegrass festivals. In various interviews, he has said that music is the purest form of expression he knows, and that, in many stressful moments, it has been through music that he found emotional balance. Many nights are spent playing with close friends, far from public eyes, simply for enjoyment. During the most challenging moments of his life, it was precisely this personal structure, family, true friends, music, and privacy that kept him strong. There were periods of intense professional pressure, especially as he began gaining more prominence in Hollywood and found himself surrounded by grandiose, yet artistically empty opportunities. He admitted that without a solid home base, he could have easily been lost in the whirlwind. Instead, he always had a place to return to, a space where the name, John C. Reilly, meant not movie star, but husband, father, and friend. This way of living has also influenced his approach to work. He has never accepted roles that would excessively compromise his family life. He has turned down long-term projects or distant shoots that would have kept him away from his wife and children for extended periods. For many Hollywood executives, this might have seemed risky, but for John, it was simply a matter of priorities. In an interview, he calmly stated, "I love acting, but nothing would make me sacrifice my family for it. Fame comes and goes, but life with the people you love is what lasts." Actually, John lives in a phase of serenity. He remains with Allison, keeps his home a refuge away from Hollywood's noise, and enjoys a peaceful life. This discretion and stability are as remarkable as his roles on screen. John C. Reilly is not only a talented actor, he's also a man who, even within one of the loudest and most intrusive industries in the world, has managed to preserve his essence, protect those he loves, and live according to his own values. It is precisely this combination of talent and integrity that makes him a respected figure, not just as an artist, but as a person. So Reilly is known for his calm, reserved demeanor and his ability to avoid the typical Hollywood scandals. There have been moments in his career when he chose, clearly and directly, to speak without filters. These revelations and controversial statements have never carried the explosive or sensationalist tone of many celebrities, but they drew attention precisely for the opposite reason: their raw honesty and the courage to expose uncomfortable truths about the inner workings of the film industry. John has never been a man of rehearsed speeches or lines meant to please. When he chose to speak, he did so with conviction, and his words resonated among colleagues, fans, and even studio executives who did not expect such frankness from someone with such a peaceful public image. One of the first controversial statements to mark his career came in the early 2000s, when John began receiving larger roles in major productions. In an interview with a U.S. film magazine, he stated that the industry cares more about products than artists, referring to how major studios treated actors as pieces in a commercial game. He explained that directors and actors often do not have real creative freedom because decisions are made by marketing departments and executives interested only in financial returns. "It's like we're selling soda, not telling human stories," he said at the time. The statement caused immediate reaction, as many actors avoid openly criticizing the major studios that finance their projects. So another striking revelation occurred a few years later when Reilly participated in a roundtable with other award-winning actors and was asked about the pressure to conform to market standards. He revealed that he had turned down million-dollar roles in superhero films and blockbusters simply because he didn't believe in the projects and didn't want to be just another cog in a giant, impersonal machine. He explained that, although these roles could have brought him even greater fame, they would have cost him his peace and the type of career he had chosen to build. His honesty surprised many, as most actors dream of landing roles in successful franchises, while he openly admitted he preferred to maintain his creative freedom over earning millions of dollars. John has also spoken candidly about the psychological pressure the industry places on artists. In an interview with The Guardian, he revealed that at certain points in his career, he felt suffocated by external expectations, particularly after gaining greater recognition following his Oscar nomination. He explained that fame, contrary to popular belief, brought not only opportunities but also constant pressure to be bigger, take more roles, and appear more. He said, with a candidness that surprised many, "Success can isolate you more than failure. When everyone is looking at you, that's when you feel most invisible." The quote spread widely, being reproduced in numerous publications and social media platforms because it captured a feeling many artists experience but few dare admit publicly. Another controversial moment came when he spoke about behind-the-scenes conditions on certain productions. Without naming names directly, Reilly recounted working with authoritarian directors and on productions where the environment was extremely toxic, with shouting, inhumane pressure, and lack of respect for actors and crew. People think film sets are always glamorous, but often they're emotional battlefields, he said in a radio interview. He made it clear that, on more than one occasion, he considered walking off a set because of this abusive behavior, but only didn't because he felt a responsibility to the team and the collective work. His remarks were received with attention and caused discomfort among some industry professionals, as they exposed a side often swept under the rug. John also engaged in public discussions about the role of actors and how they are perceived. He criticized the celebrity culture that turns artists into brands. He said the obsession with image and self-promotion on social media distorts the essence of acting. Acting isn't about promoting yourself, it's about disappearing into a character. But nowadays, people are more concerned with how many followers they have than with the story they're telling, he stated in a televised interview. He made it clear that he has no social media accounts and does not intend to have any, precisely to avoid participating in this constant exposure cycle. For many, this statement was a breath of authenticity in an era dominated by image and popularity worship. So one of his most discussed revelations was his view on Hollywood awards. Despite having been nominated for an Oscar, John stated that he doesn't consider awards the true measure of artistic quality. In his words, awards are nice, but they don't define anything. I've seen brilliant work ignored and mediocre performances win everything. If you depend on an award to feel valid, you've already missed the point. The statement caused a stir at the time, especially since it came from someone within the circle of major awards. For many, it was an act of courage to admit this publicly. And beyond speaking about the industry, John also addressed more personal and existential matters. In a lengthy podcast conversation about independent cinema, he revealed that behind his solid career, he also faced periods of deep insecurity, questioning whether it was worth continuing. He shared that during a phase of emotional exhaustion, he even considered stepping away from Hollywood entirely to focus solely on local theater or folk music. What kept him going was the awareness that he could still tell meaningful stories and touch people through art, but he made it clear that, if that were no longer possible, he would have no problem disappearing from the spotlight. An important aspect of these statements is that John never speaks impulsively. He isn't the type to make a headline-grabbing remark. His words usually come after reflection, in longer interviews or deeper conversations, always with a calm yet firm tone. This gives his statements special weight. He is a man who rarely speaks publicly about controversial topics, so when he does, the impact is even greater. In recent years, as he has aged and consolidated his career, John seems to have become even freer to say what he thinks. He no longer needs to please executives or prove anything to anyone. This is reflected in even more transparent statements. In one of his most recent remarks, he said, "I never wanted to be a brand. I wanted to be an artist. And if one day I can no longer be that, I'd rather stop." This statement perfectly captures the spirit with which he conducts his professional and personal life. Also, his revelations and controversial statements are not scandals, but uncomfortable and truthful reflections on the reality of the industry. He is one of those rare voices that speaks honestly without raising his voice. In a world where many fear taking a stand, John C. Reilly has chosen transparency, and for that reason, he has become an even more respected figure. For his fans, these statements reinforce the image of an artist who is honest, self-aware, and courageous. For the industry, they serve as a reminder that behind the glamour and multi-million-dollar contracts, there are still artists who value truth over convenience. Even though Reilly is recognized for his calm, reserved demeanor and his ability to avoid the typical Hollywood scandals, there have been moments in his career when he faced profound challenges and personal struggles behind the scenes. These difficult moments, often invisible to the public eye, shaped his personality, his perspective on life, and the way he approaches his career to this day. Few people realize that John's path was not a straight line of successes and applause. Between acclaimed roles, award nominations, and memorable performances, there were silent battles, internal conflicts, and deep dilemmas that he faced away from the spotlight, often alone or with only the support of his family. From a very young age, John learned that the path of an artist is rarely predictable or safe. In interviews, he has shared that in his youth, he had to confront a constant fear of not being good enough and of disappointing himself and those who believed in him. At the same time, he saw many friends and theater colleagues abandon their paths, which heightened the sense that failure was always lurking nearby. This feeling of insecurity did not disappear with fame. On the contrary, it grew alongside it. John has always been highly demanding of himself, which led him to endure periods of intense self-criticism, questioning whether his professional choices truly aligned with his artistic essence. One of the first major challenges in his career came in the early 1990s, when, after gaining some recognition in theater and small film roles, John faced a period of professional stagnation. Although respected behind the scenes, he was not offered significant roles, and auditions for larger projects often ended in rejection. This sequence of disappointments left deep marks on his emotional state, causing him to question whether he could truly make a living from acting. Years later, he admitted that this period was so challenging that he seriously considered leaving Hollywood and returning full-time to theater. Despite being surrounded by artists and projects, he often felt invisible, as if his talent were insufficient to be noticed in such a competitive industry. Another deeper crisis occurred at a more mature stage of his career, when his popularity was rising. After his Oscar nomination, John faced unprecedented pressure to meet the expectations of both an audience and an industry that suddenly placed him on a new level. So this transition was difficult because he had always maintained a calm relationship with fame. He did not seek celebrity status, avoided unnecessary social events, and did not live for the media. Suddenly, he was expected to be everywhere, take on major commercial roles, and turn his career into a kind of showcase. John revealed in an interview that during this period he felt suffocated and even disconnected from himself, as if he were being pushed into a lifestyle he did not want. Despite his professional accomplishments, he experienced intense internal conflict, torn between what the industry expected and what he truly wanted for his life and his art. This type of pressure also affected his emotional well-being. John has always kept his personal life very private, shielding his family from the public eye, but this did not make him immune to the side effects of fame. He spoke openly years later about moments of deep loneliness, even when surrounded by people. When you become very well known, many people approach you, but few really see you. Fame is a lens that distorts everything, he said in an interview. It was in this context that he began to distance himself from certain social circles, opting for a more reclusive and private life. This withdrawal, though a conscious choice, was accompanied by moments of sadness and isolation, especially when he realized he had to give up many simple, everyday experiences to protect his privacy. Another delicate episode came when he lost close friends from the artistic world, some of whom fell victim to emotional struggles exacerbated by Hollywood's relentless pace. John has always spoken seriously about the psychological impact of the entertainment industry. In one of his most candid interviews, he admitted that witnessing colleagues battle depression and addiction deeply affected him and led him to reconsider his own priorities. He also acknowledged that he endured periods of emotional exhaustion and had to learn to recognize his own limits to avoid following the same dark paths as many peers. Thus, behind-the-scenes environments of certain productions were also fertile ground for difficult moments. Although he worked with talented directors and teams, the conditions were not always healthy. John recounted, without naming names, being on sets with extreme pressure, constant tension, and a lack of respect from some leaders, making the work emotionally exhausting. On more than one occasion, he considered walking away from filming but stayed out of a sense of responsibility to the rest of the crew. These experiences left emotional scars, showing that even high-budget, prestigious productions could have deeply toxic human environments. There were also personal challenges related to balancing work and family. John has always valued his relationship with his wife and children, keeping it out of the tabloids, but this did not spare him from the dilemmas of reconciling a demanding career with a healthy family life. Long shoots, constant travel, and the unpredictable pace of projects often kept him away from loved ones for weeks or months, creating feelings of guilt and longing. In a podcast about fatherhood, he spoke candidly about one of the greatest battles of his life, learning to find a balance between being an artist and a family man. Fame doesn't prepare you for missing hugging your children. The glamour disappears when you close the door of a hotel room alone, he said with touching honesty. However, mental health was also a silent battlefield. While he has never revealed overly intimate details, John has admitted facing periods of anxiety and anguish, especially when pressured to make decisions that could drastically change the course of his career. He always remained steadfast in refusing to be completely shaped by the industry, but maintaining that integrity came at a cost. It required emotional resilience, the willingness to give up tempting opportunities, and the readiness to be misunderstood by some executives. There were many moments when he felt alone in this struggle, questioning whether he was making the right decisions. Over the years, John found ways to transform these difficulties into fuel for personal growth. Music, for example, became an important outlet. He has always had a passion for playing and singing, using it as a creative refuge during the most stressful periods. Additionally, the support and companionship of his family were essential pillars for navigating challenging times. In numerous interviews, he emphasized that his wife and children were crucial for keeping him grounded and emotionally balanced, even when everything around him seemed to collapse. So nowadays, looking back, John speaks about these difficult moments with serenity and without resentment. He does not attempt to hide them or pretend they never happened. Instead, he acknowledges that these silent battles were precisely what made him stronger, more self-aware, and clearer about his goals. He refused to be consumed by Hollywood's pace or by external expectations. He learned to choose projects more carefully, prioritize his mental and emotional well-being, and live a life more aligned with his values. These experiences have given John C. Reilly a rare perspective in the entertainment world. He understands fame as temporary and integrity as permanent. His difficult moments did not define him negatively, and they became the foundation that sustained his journey. He survived the silent pressures that crush many artists and, instead of yielding, built a solid, authentic, and profoundly human path. By revealing these battles, even subtly and respectfully, he demonstrates that even the most admired artists face shadows away from the spotlight, and overcoming them requires quiet courage, determination, and above all, an unwavering commitment to being true to oneself. So the Reilly story is a rare showing of how it is possible to grow older with elegance, wisdom, and serenity within an industry that often values fleeting sparkle more than consistency and authenticity. Today, at 60 years old, lives a new chapter of his life and career that perfectly reflects the strength of everything he has built over more than 3 decades in the spotlight. If in the past, he was the talented actor who quietly stood out in major productions, today he is a complete artist, mature and fully aware of his worth, living with more calm, creative freedom, and a lighter outlook on fame and art. Unlike many artists who fight to stay under the spotlight at any cost, John has chosen a more peaceful and authentic path, prioritizing quality of life and projects that genuinely touch his heart. One of the clearest signs of this new phase is the balance he has found between personal and professional life. After decades immersed in intense filming schedules, promotional tours, award seasons, and public commitments, John has chosen to slow down. This isn't about retirement or stepping away, but a conscious decision to prioritize what truly matters. Today, he's more selective about the roles he accepts, seeking stories with depth, meaning, or that bring him genuine joy to perform. He no longer has to prove anything to anyone, and that has given him a powerful sense of creative freedom. This serenity is visible not only in his interviews, but also in the way he carries himself, always with a calm smile and an air of gratitude for the journey he has taken. And Aslo music has become an even more meaningful part of his life in recent years. John has always had a deep love for playing and singing, and lately, he has devoted more time to this passion. He performs regularly at musical events and festivals, not as a movie star seeking attention, but as a musician who loves the stage. For him, music is a space of pure expression, free from the pressure of studios or critics' expectations. It's a space where he can simply be John, no characters, no masks, just him and his art. He's shared in interviews that performing live gives him a unique sense of connection with the audience, a kind of energy entirely different from a cinematic experience. While film involves cameras, scripts, and editing, music is immediate, honest, and deeply human. So alongside music, John has also been dedicating himself to more personal and creative projects, exploring new ways to tell stories. He has shown growing interest in working behind the scenes, whether as a producer or writer, helping bring independent and authentic artistic projects to life. This transition to a more multifaceted role is a natural evolution for an artist who has always valued substance over spectacle. For John, it is no longer about the number of roles or constant visibility, but about purpose and meaning. This mindset is a direct reflection of the wisdom he has gained over the years, a deep understanding that true legacy is not defined by awards, but by how you inspire others and build bridges with your audience and peers. In his personal life, John remains true to the private lifestyle that has always defined him. He is still married to Allison Dickey, his partner in life and art, with whom he shares a solid relationship far from the tabloids. His children are grown now, and he has spoken warmly about the joy of watching his family flourish away from the public eye. This family stability, as he said himself, is one of his greatest achievements. While many artists lose themselves in the whirlwind of fame, John has always been clear that his safe harbor is at home. That emotional foundation has been crucial in helping him face the highs and lows of his career without losing balance. Another defining aspect of this chapter is the way John views fame. Instead of trying to remain constantly in the spotlight, he sees fame with a healthy distance. In recent interviews, he has said that he doesn't feel the need to be at the center of everything or to compete with younger generations of actors. On the contrary, he enjoys observing and, when possible, guiding them, sharing valuable experiences and advice. He knows fame is temporary, but integrity and the respect earned over the years endure. This mature, peaceful perspective stands in sharp contrast to the intensity of his early career, revealing a man who has learned to live with more ease, without needing to prove his relevance with every project. John has also started speaking more openly about mental health and emotional balance, topics that were long considered taboo in Hollywood. He understands that part of his legacy isn't just in the roles he played, but in how he handles the pressures of the industry. His honest, human stance inspires colleagues and fans alike, showing that success doesn't have to come with extreme sacrifices. Today, John is living proof that it's possible to grow older with dignity and find harmony between career and personal life, something many artists struggle to achieve. Moreover, his public image has never been stronger. Even though he doesn't seek scandals or sensational headlines, John is widely respected as one of the most versatile actors of his generation. His artistic legacy is undeniable. He has shined in dramas, comedies, musicals, and independent films, moving effortlessly between genres without ever losing his authenticity. Many critics call him an actor's actor, someone who consistently delivers honest, powerful performances and elevates any project he's part of. That consistency in itself is a powerful legacy, especially in an era when many artists become trapped in a single role or passing trends. Today, Reilly lives more peacefully, but not with less passion. He continues to act, play music, create, and inspire, just at a rhythm more aligned with his values and essence. He's no longer driven by the need for applause, but by the joy of sharing his art with the world. And paradoxically, that has made him even more admired. His journey shows that true success isn't about staying at the top of fame's peak, but about aging with dignity and remaining true to oneself. In the end, John C. Reilly represents a rare kind of artist in Hollywood, one who never needed scandals to be remembered, who never fell into the industry's traps, and who built a career based on quality, not quantity. His legacy lies not only in the films he made memorable, but in the way he has chosen to live his life. Today, he is a serene man, a complete artist, and a quiet source of inspiration to many. Music, family, and creative freedom have become the pillars of this new chapter, defined less by the spotlight and more by depth. And it's precisely this tranquility earned over time that makes Reilly such an admired figure. He didn't just shine, he learned to shine at his own pace.